Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird,
I mean, Fuego here.
and we are here to review the first episode of the brand new DC show Swamp Thing, which is the adaptation of the classic comic book from DC Vertigo. And it looks like they're kind of doing the Alan Moore stuff, from what I can tell.
I don't remember it super well, but
But yeah, so they've only released the pilot episode so far. The next one's releasing in a couple more days. So I don't know if we're going to do a week by week thing or just wait until it's done and review the whole thing. But from the pilot, I am really excited about this show. So we'll do this like our normal reviews. We'll talk about our overall thoughts, the story, the acting, the effects, for sure the effects, all that good stuff in turn. And so I'll start off by saying I really loved this episode. I thought it was great, a great setup, a great pilot episode. It was very horror, appropriately dark, and the score was good and, intimidating and engrossing, and the effects above all were high tier. I can see how this show would have run into budgetary issues if they maintained this level throughout the rest of the series. So overall, though, for this first episode, I really dug it.
yeah, same. I was a big fan of this. From the acting especially. Our lead scientist girl, and the guy who has kind of a dark past of sorts as far as just getting himself into trouble with looking into conspiracy type stuff that we have. I don't know, and the effects were good, and it's within the first couple minutes it's very horror. There's an opening bit that is really cool, and there's some Thing vibes. There's just all kinds of radness throughout. I dug what Atomic Monster, which is James Wan's production company, has done with it, and also with Gary Dauberman. Maybe I'm warming up to a little bit, and he co-developed this with Mark Verheiden, who I love since he was working on the Predator and Aliens comics for Dark Horse way back in the day. So yeah, this is in good hands. It's kind of a bummer that we're not going to see the full episode run, at least for this first season, but I'm super hopeful it's successful so that we can get more of it for a second year.
Yeah. So let's get into the story. So the story is about this town in the south that is having issues. Like, people are getting sick, and there is a very dangerous part of the swamp that people that happen upon it, they don't end up well.
No.
We'll just say. And so Abby Arcane is a scientist played by Crystal Reed, who was the girl, the main love interest in the first few seasons of the MTV Teen Wolf show. She played Allison, as well as being the lead in the movie that we watched and really liked in 2018, Incident in the Ghostland. She was in that as well.
That was her.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I was trying to put my thumb on where I recognized her from.
So
yeah,
she. I actually wasn't a huge fan of her in Teen Wolf, but she grew on me, and then after that, I've really liked her in everything she's done, including this. I thought she was great. So she plays Abby Arcane. She's called in because she is a scientist, and she's called in as an expert to sort of try and figure out what's going on, because she also happens to be from this town.
And I'm trying to remember at the beginning, she's in Africa, I want to say, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, she's abroad, and she's called back home, essentially. Yeah.
And so when she gets there, she starts investigating where all this sickness can be coming from, and during her investigation, she runs across a man by the name of Alec Holland, who is enigmatic, but is basically, he ends up at the scene of a sort of attack, because the vegetation is taking on a life of its own in the swamp, and it is attacking people.
Yep.
And so on the scene of one of these attacks, the Crystal Reed is there, Abby Arcane is there, because she's a consultant, and the police think that there's some kind of foul play, but they don't have the evidence to really suggest that. And so when Alec Holland shows up, he's like doing an investigation of his own, and like says, you're not going to find what you're looking for, and he gets dragged away from a hospital, I think is where the incident was, or whatever. And he says, you're going to want to talk to me soon. And so very soon she ends up in another place where he is also there, and so they start to talk and kind of develop a pseudo friendship,
there's
an uneasy alliance, but a little bit of flirtiness
too,
as well. And so he basically starts to explain that it's even weirder than they think, and so he takes her to a lab that he's set up and shows that this compound that he's finding in the swamp has these weird properties, where he sprays or rather drops, like 2 drops of this fluid on a tiny bit of swamp moss, and it starts growing out of control in this little container and stuff. It almost breaks out, but Holland like stops it and bursts it and stuff, or bursts into flames and kills it before it can escape. But that's what they're up against. And one of the early attacks is this awesome attack on a group of guys that are in the swamp in a boat, and the vegetation sort of grows up through the boat and attacks them all. Again, I'm not trying to spoil it, but that's the kind of attack we're seeing. And so that's pretty much as far... Oh, well, by the end of the pilot, because it is a pilot, there is an accident that occurs, and Alec Holland is sort of stuck in the swamp with some of the compound, and he ends up running afoul of some bad people, and after the attack, he sort of floats to the bottom of the swamp where the vegetation takes over and, you know, starts running all throughout him, and towards the end of the episode, he sort of emerges in front of Abby as the Swamp Thing creature thing.
Hugh Derek Mears.
Hugh Derek Mears, exactly. And that's where the pilot episode ends. So I know it's a spoiler of the story, but it's the first episode in a whole season, so I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it's a whetting of the appetite to make you guys want to see this show. So what did you think of how the story played out? I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was solid, man. And I don't always like this whole, there's some sort of, conspiracy with dumping in this town. We've seen in a lot of different horror movies where mutation of people or, animals or whatever is transpiring. But for this, it made perfect sense, and it was factored in well. I liked the dynamic between the two actors of how they were written and how, Crystal Reed, you said her name was, how she complimented the dude from Sinister, who was a minor character in the first film and then a major character in the second one. He was like a sheriff deputy or something like that.
Main investigator.
Yeah, and now he's going to be playing a grown-up version of Eddie in It Chapter 2. So, yeah, he's a protege of Gary Doberman and, James Wan and that whole, sect and crew of people. And I thought, he was written very well. He had this kind of snarky attitude about him that I dug. And, yeah, I mean, effects-wise, I can't wait for us to get into that, because there's a couple very choicely written bits of crazy creatureness, and just the one at the very beginning where, I mean, impaled on strange vines and stuff like that is really all that I can say, and it's awesome.
So, acting we can run through pretty quick. Yeah. I liked Crystal Reed. I liked Alec Holland. I don't think there was very much by way of bad acting in this pilot episode at all.
Not at all. It felt like Hollywood level. It did not feel like, okay, this is streaming this or television that, but I guess all of those mediums have upped their game in recent years anyway, and just, I mean, it felt as professional as could be. It felt like there was, everything put into the casting and the process, and yeah, I thought it was great, man.
Yeah. So any of the other actors worth speaking of?
Well, I mean, you do start to meet some of the just minor villainous, like the actual people doing this dumping and stuff like that for their own, financial gains and stuff. And but really, aside from maybe one or two other doctor or investigator type people, it's nobody really stuck out like the two who we spend pretty much the entirety of the episode with.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So let's briefly go through the score and the sound, because I think they both stand out in this. The score was very horror, very ominous,
Gothic,
very dark, gothic. Yeah, I really liked the score. And then the sound had to be pretty masterful to sell the effects, because the effects weren't bad, but I'm telling you guys, you don't realize how much sound sells digital effects in movies nowadays. So this had the the creeping and crawling and snapping and constriction, the bones breaking, the gurgles, the all of that stuff, the slithering of vines, all of that had to be integrated, and they do a really great job of it. I was very immersed.
Exactly, yeah, and just some of the sounds that this reanimated corpse makes at one particular point, about halfway through the episode, they're on the verge of some stuff in the thing that, as far as terrifying sounds from this sort of reanimated thing go, in my opinion. So. Well,
I mean, that's as good a bridge as any to get into the effects, because as Fuego said, there is a serious homage. It had to be an homage,
100%.
Right?
I mean,
serious homage to the thing, and having just literally done a commentary and review of the thing 2 days ago.
And also Rebel Rising, having read that recently, it obviously takes a lot of cues from the Carpenter film as well. So
Rising Rebels, yeah. It's really good.
Sorry,
as far as an homage goes, because there's a dead body in a morgue that was killed by the vines, and of course, Crystal Reed, and I keep calling her Crystal Reed instead of her character, Abby Arcane and Alec Holland are like talking sciencey stuff with their backs to it, and the vines within start to grow out of the dead body, and in such a grotesque way where it kind of bursts out, but it starts to separate the body because the vines are growing under the skin as well. So it doesn't like explode, but it bursts and the skin rips and like seams appear across the body, and it just sort of starts to slowly separate, and the torso fully like separates off and like falls off and like blops down and like sprouts armatures and musculature and legs and stuff like that, and starts to stand on its own like a very much thing creature. It was so dope. It was so cool.
Agreed. Set design was solid too. I like the look of all of the swamps and stuff. I mean, sometimes it looks very much like a set. This did not, in my estimation.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, it looked really good, as did a lot of these like rundown old dingy homes and stuff where they're doing some of the investigation. Like when they meet for that second time and dude is already there, and we see like the person toppled over in front of the mirror and all of the outgrowth that had happened. I mean, everything was designed masterfully, and you can tell they put some serious money into the effects.
You're right. Set design and production design definitely deserve a shout out as well.
Big time.
Yeah, this show is very, very good, you guys. Like, I'm super excited. After watching the pilot, if the rest is of this level, I am super bummed that they shortened it from 13 to 10. Yeah. But, you know, I'll still watch all damn 10. I mean, we just sat through Nosferatu in 3 days. If I had all of Swamp Thing and all of Nosferatu to binge before today, I absolutely would have opted for Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing. Okay.
Oh, instead, you know, if I had to choose one, I based on pilots, I would have chosen Swamp Thing.
Yeah, based on pilots, I would have chosen Swamp Thing too, because the Nosferatu pilot's not that strong. You don't even get into the nitty gritty of that. Watch our review of Nosferatu when you get the chance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So there you go, guys. I think that's pretty much all we can say about it. And we did spoil that one effect, but there's more effects than that, you guys. So we just really wanted to pimp that one because it was so awesome, and we want you guys to go and check this show out.
Yeah, and so between this and Doom Patrol, like DC is doing some
Doom
pretty
Patrol's
awesome
stuff, too. Right? I'm gonna do a review of that when I'm done. I'm on like episode 7 right now.
That's
so good.
It's
15 episodes.
Oh, 15. Okay, yeah, because you and Lou have been just screaming the praises.
Everyone
of that
is
show,
like,
man.
it's so good. It is really Umbrella Academy level good. It's so fun. So anyway, yeah, why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below. Did you watch the Swamp Thing pilot episode? It's only on the DC Universe app, so that's all you can see it on right now. I splurged and got it
Sign
because
up for a free trial.
The DC app is awesome because it has all DC animation. Hey everyone, Cecil here. Just wanted to drop in the video because as I was editing this, there a little bit of news dropped that apparently the Swamp Thing show has already been canceled after only airing the pilot episode. That's what's being reported across a number of different sites. Apparently it has something to do with the fact that the DC app may actually be going away because it's going to be folded into the larger Warner Bros. App when they get that going really soon. But yeah, apparently the show that Fuego and I just finished telling you how much we enjoyed has officially been canceled. I think we're going to get the rest of the 10 episodes. That part hasn't been clarified yet, but I imagine so since they're basically shot and done, I think, at this point. But yeah, after that, no more Swamp Thing. So I guess if you're going to watch it, go in with that expectation. It's still good, still worth your time, but just bummer of news. Anyway, back to the video. Let us know in the comments down below if you're going to watch Swamp Thing. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Fuego.
Thank you to our patrons. If you liked the video, click that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet. But until next time, remember, stay scared.